Greetings and salutations. Today, we're reading Battle of the Labyrinth. So today our bookmark is actually very on theme. I can't believe I haven't used this yet, this reread. Today, our bookmark is a little Percy. Think positive. Tomorrow you're off to camp and after orientation you've got your date. It's not a date, I protested. It's just Annabeth, Mom. Jeez. She's coming all the way from camp to meet you. Well, yeah. You're going to the movies. Yeah, just the two of you. Mom! She held up her hands in surrender, but I could tell she was trying hard not to smile. Here's the fucking thing about this, is that 100% to Annabeth was a date. Like, Percy's just an oblivious idiot. Annabeth was intending for that to be a date. Percy Jackson and I think it's Bronze Dragon is what the actual title is, but basically my favourite short story is set prior to Battle of the Labyrinth. In that short story, Annabeth literally asks out Percy to the most romantic event all year at Camp Half-Blood and winks at him while she asks him out to it. She at this point is like properly flirting, has already potentially asked him out on a date. She is coming all the way from camp to meet him. This in her head is a date, but Percy doesn't realise, which makes what's about to happen with Rachel worse for Annabeth. God bless Paul's heart. He's really just giving Percy a little pep talk, being like, it's okay, we have a lot of students with ADHD and dyslexia. The teachers know how to help. Like, he really just does care so deeply about, like, Percy's education, and that's something that you can see throughout the entirety of the series, like, every time we see Paul. But I love that even though Paul and Percy probably don't know each other, like, super well yet, you know, he's only been dating Sally for so long, so he could have only known Percy so long, in terms of Percy's also at camp a lot of the time, but he's already just like so understanding and is trying to just be so supportive and is so like non-judgmental about Percy's history and past of being kicked out of schools, and he just really sees the best in him. And I love Paul Blowfist is the point of this. It had never occurred to me whenever I thought about her, and I'm not saying I thought about her, she just like crossed my mind from time to time, okay? Ouch. If I had $1 for every time a monster was like, it would be merciful to kill you now. It would be the kind thing. You don't want to live to see what's going to happen to you. I burst out of the alley onto East 81st and ran straight into Annabeth. Hey, you're out early, she laughed, grabbing my shoulders to keep me from tumbling into the street. Watch where you're going, seaweed brain. For a split second, she was in a good mood and everything was fine. She was wearing jeans and an orange camp t-shirt and her clay bead necklace. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a ponytail. Her grey eyes sparkled. She looked like she was ready to catch a movie and have a cool afternoon hanging out together. Then Rachel Elizabeth Dare, still covered in monster dust, came charging out of the alley, yelling, "Percy, wait up!" Annabeth's smile melted. I know the way Annabeth treats Rachel is unfair and awful, and I'm not justifying that, but Annabeth's hurt is valid. Can we please try and see this from Annabeth's point of view? She literally thinks she's about to go on a date with this guy, and you know, think about her abandonment issues as well. Think about her severe abandonment issues. He comes running out, crashes into her, and then this other girl comes running out, and you know, they're talking about monsters, and they've had this situation, which is usually, you know, Annabeth is her partner in all of those situations. Suddenly now his partner is this pretty redheaded girl. Annabeth's hurt is valid, is my point. Literally as well, Rachel has just said in front of Annabeth that Percy has told her all about the Olympians and being a half-blood and monsters and gods, and then Rachel writes her phone number on Percy's arm in front of Annabeth. I love Rachel. I don't think Rachel's doing anything wrong here either, because she doesn't know. She's never met Annabeth. She doesn't know this dynamic. Rachel's doing nothing wrong. Rachel doesn't even mean anything necessarily by writing her phone number in the sky. She just wants explanations for these horrible things she's seen all her life that she thought she was crazy for. But from Annabeth's point of view, like, you told a mortal girl about half-bloods? She can see through the mist. She saw the monsters before I did. So you told her the truth? She recognized me from Hoover Dam, so you've met her before. Last winter, but seriously, I barely know her. She's kind of cute. I never thought about it. Annabeth kept walking toward York Avenue. I'll deal with the school, I promised, anxious to change the subject. Honest, it'll be fine. Annabeth wouldn't even look at me. I guess her afternoon is off. It hurts. I am 22 pages in and Percy and Annabeth are already having communication issues. Could you imagine what this book would be like if they just talked to each other? Mrs. O'Leary is here. I say this a lot, but like the actual best character in the entire Camp Half-Blood Chronicles, I think, is Mrs. O'Leary. You're a half-blood? I didn't mean to sound so surprised, but I'd never seen an old demigod before. Please can some kids at Camp Half-Blood start living on? Like, some kids at Camp Jupiter survive. That's why, like, New Rome University is a whole thing. They really should have just told the Greeks about the Romans earlier, just to be like, look, they're surviving. They can do it. You've got a future. Not at all, Master Chiron. No need to call me Master. No need to call me Sir, Professor. 1, I absolutely love Juniper. 2, can we just appreciate that, like, Annabeth is comforting Juniper and Juniper is actually finding comfort in Annabeth. I feel like in, like, Fanon, I guess, we often portray Annabeth as this cold, almost standoffish character with everyone except Percy and occasionally Piper, and she's really not that at all. Annabeth canonically being really excited to see Tyson just makes me so happy. It just makes me so happy. Nico burning us with a magic card. The fact that Nico offered to give up his own soul in order for Bianca to come back. I'm in pain. Somebody else slid next to me on the bench. Annabeth, I'll tell you what it's about, she said. The Labyrinth. It was hard to concentrate on what she was saying because everybody in the dining pavilion was stealing glances at us and whispering, and Annabeth was right next to me. I mean, right next to me. That is one of the best Percy moments in the entire series. Percy being really distracted because of how close Annabeth is sitting to him. God tier. God tier, God tier, God tier, God tier, God tier, God tier. Annabeth nodded. Despite how serious she was acting, I was happy she wasn't mad at me anymore. And I kind of liked the fact that she'd broken the rules to come sit next to me. The way in which I can't even read about Percy giving Blackjack like a literal Pegasus sugar cubes without just thinking of Finnick Dare. Finnick Dare really defined sugar cubes for me, I guess. Percy Jackson with Annabeth Chase? Nice. I grinned at Annabeth. Your armour is crooked, was her only comment, and she redid my straps for me. The way in which they're just the absolute blueprint, the way in which they are everything to me, there's just something about their dynamic that I can't articulate it. They are just simply everything to me. No other ships are doing it like them. I can't even explain it. Are you guys busy? Juniper asked. Well, I said, we're in the middle of this game against a bunch of monsters and we're trying not to die. We're not busy, Annabeth said. What's wrong, Juniper? Annabeth is such a good friend. Annabeth is so caring and she's so kind and she's such a good friend. Why don't people appreciate the side of Annabeth more? I did not remember that Annabeth and Percy fell into Labyrinth this early on. Like, I'm like 58 pages in. For some reason, I always thought that happened around like page 100-ish. This is so much earlier than I thought it was. Annabeth's hand slipped into mine. Under different circumstances, I would have been embarrassed, but here in the dark, I was glad to know where she was. It was about the only thing I was sure of. That reminds me of that one quote from Heroes of Olympus, where Percy's saying, I think it's Heroes of Olympus, it might not be, but it's about like how he doesn't know if he believes in fate and prophecies, but he knows that him and Annabeth are meant to be together, or that's not the exact quote, but you know the one I'm talking about. That reminds me of that, but it also reminds me of that moment in The Lightning Thief in the underworld where Percy, when she first holds Percy's hand, and I think he says there as well that, you know, under normal circumstances he would have been embarrassed, but he was glad to know there was someone else still alive and he understood why she was doing it. That's like it's a direct parallel to that, which makes me quite happy. Okay, unrelated, but look what was just delivered while I was having lunch. It's my signed folklore CD. I actually just broke down crying. Do I get stupidly emotional over owning things that Taylor has signed? Yes. She herself physically signed this. And it just, I don't know, makes me feel closer to her in this really weird way. It kind of like solidifies that she's a real person. It's been like 2 years since I last saw her in concert, and you know, sometimes I doubt that she is a real person. But she is, and she signed this. Anyway, back to Battle of the Labyrinth. His beard was pointed like a spear blade. How the fuck do you get your beard to do that? I'm impressed. I'm low-key impressed. I didn't know it was important. Just a cave. I don't like yucky old caves. She has good taste, Grover said. I wouldn't have paid any attention except... Well, it was Luke. Grover huffed. Forget what I said about good taste. Tag yourself, I'm Grover. I've been studying architecture for years. I know the Labyrinth better than anybody. From reading about it. Well, yes, that's not enough. It has to be. It isn't. Are you going to help me or not? I realised everyone was watching Annabeth and me like a tennis match. I love when they bicker like an old married couple. They are the blueprint. Waiting for Annabeth was harder than visiting the Oracle myself. when he cares more about Annabeth's well-being than about his own chance of, like, going insane. I love one boy. Percy literally breaking the rules and breaking into the big house to try and, like, find Annabeth and see what was taking so long and make sure she was okay. This boy. Annabeth looked at me first. I couldn't tell if she was trying to warn me or if the look in her eyes was just plain fear. The prophecy fucking said that she would lose a love to a fate worse than death, and she thinks that that means Percy. I am insane. Nobody cheered. I mean, we all liked Annabeth and we wanted her to have a quest, but this one seemed insanely dangerous. After what I'd seen of Chris Rodriguez, I didn't even want to think about Annabeth descending into that weird maze again. He cares about her so much. So much. I could scream. Are there more lines? Chiron asked. The prophecy does not sound complete. Annabeth hesitated. I don't remember exactly. Chiron raised an eyebrow. Annabeth was known for her memory. She never forgot something she heard. Annabeth shifted on a bench. Something about destroy with a hero's final breath. And? Chiron asked. She stood. Look, the point is I have to go in. She's literally deflecting the question because the prophecy told her and lose a love to a fate worse than death, and she doesn't want to have to stand there and explain that she thinks that that's about Percy because they have not had that conversation yet, but that's what she thinks it means, and that's why she's dodging the question and not telling everyone the full prophecy. She's mad for the first time in days, and that made it all worthwhile. Dude, are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? This is why my expectations for relationships are, like, fucking through the roof. It's Perseus Jackson. It's his fault. Again, my issue with, like, the rules around names comes up because earlier in this book, when Rachel started listing off, like, monsters and just names of things, Percy was like, shh, don't say those names around me. Yet here Chiron is just openly saying there are 3 fates, 3 furies. Like, he's really just naming them. And I know that they're at camp, which might potentially make it different, but Percy was first taught about how names have power at camp when he was told not to name these creatures at camp. Why not say 3 kindly ones? He's just said 3 furies. And Mrs. O'Leary liked him, which had to count for something. I felt that. I do genuinely trust animals' judgment of people more so than my own judgment of people, so felt that, Bess. I'm sorry, I just want to read this whole part out because it's one of my favourite moments in the entire Camp Half-Life Chronicles. Like, not just Percy Death moments, not just moments in the series, and the entirety of the Camp Half-Life Chronicles. Her hair had come loose and was hanging in a tangled blonde curtain all around her face. Her grey eyes looked almost black. I've wanted to leave it a quest since I was 7, she said. You're going to do awesome. She looked at me gratefully, but then stared down at all the books and scrolls she'd pulled from the shelves. I'm worried, Percy. Maybe I shouldn't have asked you to do this, or Tyson and Grover. Hey, we're your friends, we wouldn't miss it. But she stopped herself. What is it? I asked. The prophecy. I'm sure it's fine, she said in a small voice. What was the last line? Then she did something that really surprised me. She blinked back tears and put out her arms. I stepped forward and hugged her. Butterflies started turning my stomach into a mosh pit. Hey, it's okay. I patted her back. I was aware of everything in the room. I felt like I could read the tiniest print on any book on the shelves. Annabeth's hair smelled like lemon soap. She was shivering. Parrot might be right, she muttered. I'm breaking the rules, but I don't know what else to do. I need you there. It just feels right. Then don't worry about it. I managed. We've had plenty of problems before and we solved them. This is different. I don't want anything happening to any of you. Behind me, somebody cleared his throat. It was one of Annabeth's half-brothers, Malcolm. His face was bright red. Sorry, he said. Archery practice is starting, Annabeth. Chiron said to come find you. I stepped away from Annabeth. We were just looking at maps. Why doesn't he come up with anything else? Anything else? Everything about the moment makes me so happy. Annabeth actually opening up to Percy and confiding in him for like the first time, letting him see her be legitimately vulnerable when she obviously doesn't let herself be that open and vulnerable around people. Percy being so hyper aware of everything around the room because of the butterflies he has while hugging Annabeth and picking up on like the smell of her hair and stuff. Everything about it is just... The last time I'd seen him, he had been broken and unconscious after a nasty fall from Mount Tam. Now he looks perfectly fine, almost too healthy. I hate to see it. I hate to see it. Give me suffering Luke or no Luke at all. Is this actually the first time we hear Luke's last name? Did not remember that. Do we seriously? I mean, why would they be lying to me? But like, wow, I did not realize we didn't know his last name until Battle of the Labyrinth. Holy shit. Okay, but I like high-key ship Luke and Kelly now, and I fully blame my friend Dara. I hadn't seen one in years, but I recognized it. The McDonald's Happy Meal. He turned it upside down and shook the fries and hamburger into the grave. In my day, we used animal blood, the ghost mumbled. It's perfectly good enough. They can't taste the difference. I will treat them with respect, Nico said. At least let me keep the toy, the ghost said. This is so iconic. This is one of the most iconic moments in this entire series. Just like the imagery of using a Happy Meal to raise the dead. And like a 10-year-old doing it too is just so powerful. This is so powerful. I love Nico. This moment is just so iconic. There's a reason most Nico cosplayers will like at some point do some sort of content involving McDonald's, and it's because this is just such a god tier moment. That voice. I know that voice. No, you don't, fool. Something about that is so funny to me. Like, the ghost just being like, no, you don't. You're wrong. I would just like to fucking shout out to, I don't know if it was Percy's idea, but Percy's the one carrying it, to at least Percy for fucking packing extra batteries for his flashlight. Percy could be a final girl, that's all I'm saying. I did not remember this. What is this place? I muttered. It looks Roman, Annabeth said. Those mosaics are about 2,000 years old, but how can they be Roman? Like, I know that they're just referencing that, like, they've just reached a part of the labyrinth that is from ancient Rome, but, like, that's kind of gotta be a Camp Jupiter hint, right? You know you, Annabeth, the last face said. You know what you wrestle with every day. We know your indecision. You will have to make your choice sooner or later, and the choice may kill you. I didn't know what they were talking about, but it looks like it was about more than a choice between doors. Can you just leave my girl alone? Maybe, please? You know very well your visit is premature. The girl's time has yet to come. So I give you a choice. Leave these heroes to me, or I shall turn you into a door and break you down. The fact that Annabeth is dealing with this shit when she's probably just turned 15 here, because Percy turns 15 at the end of the novel, and, like, his birthday is a little bit after Annabeth's. But, oh my god. But now, Hera looks like a regular mom. She's not a regular mom, she's a cool mom. I want to fight her, though. First of all, I pronounce her name Campe. That's probably wrong. I'm a fucking dumb person who only speaks English, and so other languages are really difficult for me. But Campe imprisoned him in Tartarus for thousands of years. How would you feel? Annabeth, sweetie, don't worry, he'll know how Tartarus feels soon. I always win rock, paper, scissors. Then let's do it. I pounded my fist in my palm 3 times. Briareus did the same, with all 100 hands, which sounded like an army marching 3 steps forward. He came out with a whole avalanche of rocks, a classroom set of scissors, and enough paper to make a fleet of aeroplanes. I told you, he said sadly. His face morphed to confusion. What is that you made? A gun, I told him, showing him my finger gun. It was a trick Paul Blofeld had pulled at me, but I wasn't going to tell him that. A gun beats anything. Just the fact that Percy wins a game of rock, paper, scissors with someone with 100 hands by doing a finger gun. I just love him. We ran to the far end of the yard, as far from the cell block as possible. He had it covered. I would like to inform everyone that I literally just had to stop reading to immediately film a TikTok, like the dumbest TikTok joke, because I couldn't get it out of my head, and it was like I couldn't focus until I made it. I'll put that in here. Here's that TikTok.
I'm glad you could make it. Thank you so much for coming. Now I've got some news for you. I've got a gun.
But I literally had to stop reading to make it, because I couldn't focus on anything else until I knew that I'd made it. Percy, I was kidding myself. Without planning and reading, I don't have a clue what's going on. I'm doing great. Besides, we never know what's going on. It always works out. Remember Cersei's Island? She snorted. You made a cute guinea pig. And Waterland, how you got us thrown off that ride? I got us thrown off? That was totally your fault. See? It'll be fine. She smiled, which I was glad to see, but the smile faded quickly. I love them more than I love anything else in this world. I am an awful person, but every time I even think about like the myth of Icarus, I just think of that one Tumblr post, which is potentially the funniest thing Tumblr has ever created, which is saying something because Tumblr posts just make me laugh a lot. But it's just a text post that just says, "Hey Icarus, wanna get some hot wings? Shit bro, I'm so sorry bro." Nico saying they let my sister die, they're here to kill me, and then yelling at Percy saying that he's not worthy to speak Bianca's name. The thing is, like, I can't, obviously Nico hasn't, reacted well to the news of Bianca, and he should probably logically know that they're not there to hurt him, but he's like 10 years old, 11 at most, and in his mind Percy did promise to keep Bianca safe, and then Bianca ended up dead. He barely knows them, he can't rationalize this, and he's just scared of them more than anything. Nico hesitated. He looked thinner and paler than he had in the Iris messages. I wondered if he'd eaten in the last week. His black clothes were dusty from travelling in the labyrinth, and his dark eyes were full of hate. He was too young to look so angry. I still remembered him as a cheerful little kid who played with mythomagic cards. See, this is the opposite of how I feel about Luke. I hate to see it. I would love to see Nico happy, please. I also just think sometimes about how Annabeth has only ever known this version of Nico. Annabeth didn't know Nico before. She never knew the cheerful little kid. Not that many people knew Nico as he was before. That fucking hurts me. Suddenly I realised that despite her angry attitude, she was afraid of me. She probably thought I was going to fight her for control of the river, and she was worried she would lose. The thought made me sad. I felt like a bully, a son of Poseidon throwing his weight around. I sat down on a tree stump. Okay, you win. I love this guy. This is why Percy is like the best protagonist out of any series I've read. Percy hitting him in all 3 hearts. I love to see it. Could you kill a Time Lord like that? Yeah, you could. Get the 2 hearts. Oh, they'd just regenerate. But would you kill it before he regenerated? I don't know. I need something here, Doctor Who. Oh my god, I just accidentally looked at the sun and now I can't read. I can't see anything on the page. Yeah, I'm definitely a daughter of Athena. I'm so sorry, I said. You have nothing to apologize for, Percy. I made my own choice. I don't regret it. Your mind if I just have a breakdown? I really can't even see the word papyrus anymore. Undertale, man. The fact that it's a spider that leads them to Hephaestus, just... Annabeth really has the luck of, like, Ron Weasley in Chamber of Secrets, you know? Like, why couldn't it be follow the butterflies? That's all I'm saying. Also, like, the monkey bars, I would kill that. I just want to say, like, I used to be fucking fantastic at monkey bars when I was a kid. Look, I know that I should be mad at Annabeth with the Sphinx. I know that I should just, be yelling at her as I read to just shut up and answer the questions. Who cares if they're too easy? But the reality is I would do the exact same thing. And I know that that's awful, but I would. I know that I would. I was literally playing a Friends trivia board game with my family the other night and was getting so frustrated at how easy the questions were at Friends trivia. If this was meant to be a proper, like, test of my intelligence and my wit, I would be angry that their questions were too easy too. So I can't even be mad at her about this. I can't even be frustrated with her. The truth is, my mother likes families, but she likes a certain kind of family. Perfect families. She took one look at me and, well, I don't fit the image, do I? Fuck Hera. She can catch my fucking hands. Tyson just being so willing to go with Grover and help Grover, so Grover isn't alone. I love Tyson so much. Can we talk about how if they hadn't split up, Annabeth wouldn't have had to make her way back to camp thinking Percy was dead alone? Percy and Annabeth talking about how Annabeth was born will never not be funny to me. It's Percy blushing because he's thinking of, like, the usual way that children are born, and he's blushing while talking about that with Annabeth, and Annabeth is super unapologetic about the fact, like, yeah, I was a brainchild, what do you want from me? I love it. I love it so much. How confusing as well for the, like, parents of children of Athena, the fathers. Imagine you just get a baby. A little bit of a shock to the system. It's like that part of Black Friday where they're talking about Cabbage Patch Kids and Emma's like, I wanted a salad, but now I have a child. It's like, I wanted a study buddy, probably, but now I have a child. We're in Mountain Helens, guys. We're here. It's gonna happen. Put your cat back on. I said, get out. What? Annabeth shrieked, no, I'm not leaving you. I've got a plan. I'll distract them. You can use a metal spider. Maybe it'll lead you back to Hephaestus. You have to tell them what's going on, but you'll be killed. I'll be fine. Besides, we've got no choice. Annabeth glared at me like she was going to punch me. And then she did something that surprised me even more. She kissed me. Be careful, seaweed brain. I can still remember the feeling I had when I read that for the first time. Like, I can still remember. I think I legitimately cried. For some reason, I started tearing up as we got to that moment just because of pure nostalgia. Also, I'm not going to show it, and I can tell by my god-awful handwriting, I wrote myself a note about this moment the first time I ever read it, with spelling errors in it. And it's just tucked in here from all those years ago, and I really don't know why. But it's here. I'm just thinking about Annabeth running out of there and then hearing or seeing the mountain explode. She really would have thought Percy was in there. This book hurts me so much. I'm in such pain. Time is always difficult here. I honestly don't know, Percy. You know my name? You talk in your sleep. I blushed. Yeah, I've been told that before. Yes. Who is Annabeth? A friend. We were together when... Wait, how did I get here? I'm literally... No thoughts, head empty, but all the thoughts at the same time. No words, just feelings. A time. I must say, I am very excited to be on Ogygia. I do love Calypso in this book. I don't love, and I'm very, very clear about this, I don't love Calypso anymore. I really hated her character in Trials of Apollo, and I didn't love her in House of Hades either, which they're obviously the most recent iterations of her, so it leaves a bad taste in my mouth, but I love her in Battle of the Labyrinth, and I used to adore her prior to, because when I first started reading the books, obviously it was before House of Hades, it was long before Trials. I used to love her, and she used to be just a character that I remembered so fondly, and I kind of hate that I now have a bad taste in my mouth when I think of her, but God, I love her in this book, and it's so exciting to see her in this book, and to be excited about Calypso's character again, and to love Calypso's character again. As to where you are in Ogygia. My Animal Crossing island. You're not an evil sorceress, are you? She smiled coyly. Why would you think that? Well, I met Circe once, and she had a pretty nice island too, except she liked to turn men into guinea pigs. Calypso gave me that laugh again. I promise I will not turn you into a guinea pig. Or anything else. I am no evil sorceress, Calypso said, and I am not your enemy, brave one. I love her! I love her! Can I land on Ogygia? Please. The fact that it's canon that Annabeth taught Percy constellations. I just have a lot of feelings. Calypso's punishment is such bullshit though. The fact that she's Atlas's daughter, yes, but her punishment is just so horrible and lonely, and it's awful, and she doesn't deserve it. It's not justified at all. Calypso herself didn't actually do anything, really. Perhaps I was wrong in the war, Calypso said, and in fairness, the gods have treated me well. They visit me from time to time. They bring me word of the outside world. But they can leave, and I cannot. I just think it's bullshit though, because yes, she stood by her father and she supported him in the war. But like, she supported him in the war. She didn't actively actually necessarily like wage war on the gods herself. And she says that, yeah, her prison's nice, she has a nice island, but that's not the worst part of her curse. If they just put her in Ogygia and were like, look, this is your prison, I would understand that more so, and I would be more forgiving of that being her punishment if she wasn't always cursed to fall in love with heroes who were going to leave her. That fucking sucks, and she doesn't deserve that. It isn't easy being a brilliant inventor, Hephaestus rumbled. Always alone, always misunderstood. Easy to turn bitter, make horrible mistakes. People are more difficult to work with than machines. When you break a person, they can't be fixed. That's just a whole summary of Entrapta's character from She-Ra. Am I wrong? You would be immortal on this island, she said quietly. You would never age or die. You could leave the fight to the others, Percy Jackson. You could escape your prophecy. I stared at her stunned. Just like that? She nodded. just like that. But my friends, this is why Percy was always meant to be the one that the prophecy was about. It was never going to be Talia, it was never going to be Nico, it was always going to be Percy. You can't change my mind. Maybe I can visit you, I said. She shook her head. No man ever finds a Gigi twice, Percy. When you leave, I will never see you again. This, oh my god, this is why Piper should have landed on a Gigi in Heroes of Olympus rather than Leo. It would have made for a much more compelling story, and it would have gone against that. No man can ever find a Gigi twice, but a woman could. It's right there. It's right there. I just really wish Leo wasn't put into a relationship in Heroes of Olympus. I've always been bitter about that. While I like having Calypso show up and having, you know, someone save Calypso, I hated that they put Leo into a relationship. So I really, could you imagine how much more interesting it would have been if it was Piper? That's all I'm fucking saying. For the rest of my life, I would be thinking about her. She would always be my biggest what if. I knew you'd linger like a tattooed kiss. I knew you'd haunt all over my what ifs. Annabeth turned to face the audience. She looked terrible. Her eyes were puffy from crying, but she managed to say, "He was probably the bravest friend I've ever had. Then she saw me. Her face went blood red. "He's right there." Heads turned, people gasped. "Percy!" Beckendorf grinned. A bunch of other kids crowded around me and clapped me on the back. I heard a few curses from the Urie's cabin, but Clarice just rolled her eyes like she couldn't believe I'd had the nerve to survive. Karen cantered over and everyone made way for him. "Well," he said with obvious relief, "I don't believe I've ever been happier to see a camper return. But you must tell me, where have you been?" Annabeth interrupted, shoving aside the other campers. I thought she was going to punch me, but instead she hugged me so fiercely she nearly cracked my ribs. The other campers fell silent. Annabeth seemed to realise she was making a scene and pushed me away. We thought you were dead, Seaweed Brain." "I'm sorry," I said. "I got lost." "Lost?" she yelled. 2 weeks, Percy. Where in the world, Annabeth?" Karen interrupted. "Perhaps we should discuss this somewhere more private, shall we?" The way in which this book is my everything. My Bible. "But this is my quest," Annabeth said. "I need to lead it." Karen looked uncomfortable. "My dear, it is your quest, but you need help. And this is supposed to help? Please, it's wrong. It's cowardly. It's hard to admit we need a mortal's help," I said, "but it's true." Annabeth glared at me. "You are the single most annoying person I have ever met." And she stormed out of the room. I sat at the doorway. I felt like hitting something. So much for being the bravest friend she's ever had. "She will calm down," Karen promised. "She's jealous, my boy." "That's stupid. She's not. It's not like, 1, Percy, you're a fucking idiot. She literally kissed you last time she saw you. 2, can you just..." Before Rachel actually comes in and Annabeth is being a bitch to her for no real reason, I just want to talk about where Annabeth is at right now, because I've discussed this many a time. Everyone leaves Annabeth. Up until this point, literally everyone has left Annabeth. Percy was the exception. But she's just spent 2 weeks after kissing him thinking that he was dead. She gets him back and she immediately works out that, "Oh, you spent those 2 weeks where I was grieving you on Ogygia with a beautiful girl who fell in love with you, and the first thing you're saying when you get back is that we need that other mortal girl who wrote her phone number on your hand in front of me's help, that I can't do this alone, that you need her, that you're choosing her over me. Can we just please try and think about this from Annabeth's point of view? She isn't being a bitch just to be a bitch. She's a complex character who was 14 years old or 15, whatever. And yes, she's being awful at some points in this novel, but it's because of very valid fears and issues she has that are just manifesting in ugly ways. But I would like everyone to please just try and understand where she's coming from. Please. She's not a bad person. I can't get him to clean his room, but I'm cleaning 100 tons of horse manure out of some monster's stables. Annabeth laughed. It was the first time I'd heard her laugh in a long time, and it was nice to hear. "We'll try, Miss Jackson," Annabeth said. "Keeping your son safe is a big job, though." She folded her arms and glared out the kitchen window. I picked up my napkin and tried not to say anything. My mum frowned. "What's going on with you two? Have you been fighting?" Neither of us said anything. "I see," my mum said, and I wondered if she could see through more than just the mist. It sounded like she understood what was going on with Annabeth and me, but I sure as heck didn't. "It's not hard." She kissed you. Why am I literally yelling at my book as if he can hear me? Just come in. Imagine if Percy and Annabeth communicated with each other. Imagine if they communicated. But I'm guessing you don't want to talk about that. You're a half-blood too? Shh, Annabeth said, looking around. Just announce it to the world, how about? Okay. Rachel stood up and said really loud, "Hey everybody, these two aren't human. They're half-Greek god." Nobody even looked over. Rachel shrugged and sat down. They don't seem to care. That's not funny, Annabeth said. This isn't a joke, mortal girl. Hold it, you two, I said. Just calm down. Kind of feel bad for Percy dealing with that shit. I know I've been talking this whole video about how horrible it is that Annabeth is so mean to Rachel, but genuinely, this is so funny. I hope they didn't kick you out or anything. Nah, they asked me a lot of questions about you. I played dumb. Was it hard? I'm a horrible person, but that's iconic. Hello, it's the next day. I've got a book candle burning. Let's finish Battle of the Labyrinth. Okay, I forgot about the centaur being killed in the arena. I didn't remember that happened before Percy's fight. How the fuck can people defend Luke Castellan? I'm sorry. How can people actually believe that Luke Castellan wasn't a bad person? Luke, Annabeth yelled, "Stop this. Let us go." Luke seemed to notice her for the first time. He looked stunned for a moment. Annabeth, fuck off, dude. Fuck off. You can really tell that this is the novel where the implications that Luke has feelings for Annabeth as well are being placed down, obviously, with like the knowledge we know after the last Olympian of Luke asking Annabeth to run away with him and stuff. I really do believe that this book is where it's really being implied that Luke is returning the feelings before we know for sure that he does. And friendly reminder that Luke would be 22 here. Annabeth is 15, barely 15 at most. I don't like it at all. Ethan is here. Ethan is here. Jackson, Luke yelled. I should have killed you long ago. You tried, I reminded him. That's the most badass fucking response to "I should have killed you" to ever exist. That's so... Percy is so cool. Since I'm feeling merciful today, I'll have you killed quickly. He pointed at Annabeth. Spare the girl. His voice quavered just a little. I would speak to her before our great triumph. Fuck off. Stay the fuck away from her. You creep. I hate Luke Castellan so much. Why were you trying to join up with the wrong side? Ethan sneered. There's no right side. The gods never cared about us. Why shouldn't I sign up with an army that makes you fight to the death for entertainment? Annabeth said. Gee, I wonder. Notice how she has a point. Annabeth's usually not like this, I told her. I don't know what her problem is. Rachel raised her eyebrows. Are you sure you don't know? What do you mean? Boys, she muttered. Totally blind. Correct, Rachel. You hit the nail on the head. The fact that Percy can't see it, the thing that's so frustrating about this is it's after Annabeth literally kissed him and he's still not able to work out that she likes him. I mean, like, I'm no fucking better, but I thought you were going to die. She sounded like she was close to crying. Hey, I'm usually about to die, I promised. Don't feel bad, because we're usually about to die. Annabeth and Rachel both looked pale in the harsh illumination. Pale Annabeth, my rights. The view outside was amazing. I recognized the Rocky Mountains in the distance. Whoa, check out those Rocky Mountains. You mean the Rocky Mountains? But how can you hide from Hades, I asked. I mean, Hades has the Furies. What happened to calling them the kindly ones? What happened to names have power? It's just very inconsistent. I'm sorry, Percy. Linus told me you were in danger. He convinced me to go back into the maze. You were trying to help us? I was tricked. You tricked all of us. I love Nico D'Angelo. I love Nico D'Angelo so much I could cry. You have no power over me. I am the Lord of Spirits, the Ghost King. No, Nico drew a sword. I am. This kid is like 10, maybe 11 years old and is this much of a badass. Like, Nico D'Angelo is the blueprint. We could just take a plane, Rachel said. I shuddered. I don't fly, but you just did. That was low flying. Elaborate. Explain it to Rachel, maybe, Perce. To my surprise, Rachel and Annabeth started up a conversation as we walked. Annabeth asked her more about her background, but Rachel was evasive, so they started talking about architecture. See, you can literally see, like, the beginnings of a friendship blossoming between Rachel and Annabeth, because the reality is, they are friends. They are good friends, and we see that in Heroes of Olympus. The only thing that interferes with that here is Annabeth and her jealousy and how that kind of just makes her a horrible person to Rachel. You can, even in moments where they're kind of not being a threat to each other, when Annabeth's not being a bitch and when Rachel's not flirting with Percy or intruding on Annabeth's quest or anything like that, they're getting along and you can see the beginnings of a friendship there. You stay here and guard them. What I didn't say, I was also worried about Annabeth. I didn't trust what she would do if she saw Luke again. He had fooled her and manipulated her too many times before. I don't like that it's phrased as if that's Annabeth's fault for falling for it, but I do agree. I'm worried about Annabeth too, Percy. We both care deeply about Annabeth, from one Annabeth chase stand to another. I am also worried about Annabeth because Luke does manipulate her. Annabeth took her Yankees cap out of her pocket. At least take this and be careful. Thanks. I remembered the last time Annabeth and I had parted ways, when she had given me a kiss for luck in Mount St. Helens. This time, all I got was the hat. Maybe before you just assume the kiss was purely for luck, talk to Annabeth about it? Alright, but if Percy had just stabbed Luke's body in the sarcophagus, would that legitimately have stopped Cronus? This question may be answered in The Last Olympian. If it is, don't tell me I'm an idiot. It's been a hot minute since I've reread. I say it's been a hot minute, it's been like a year, but my memory's pretty shit. But would that have legitimately stopped it? Would that have prevented the Battle of Manhattan? Would that have prevented everyone else's deaths? Like, would that have actually stopped Cronus from rising, or would Cronus have just found another form to take? It was 10 feet away when I heard Percy! Rachel's voice. Something flew past me and a blue plastic hairbrush hit Cronus in the eye. Ow! He yelled. For a moment, it was only Luke's voice, full of surprise and pain. That is one of the coolest moments of the entire series. Rachel Elizabeth Dare, a mortal, throwing a plastic hairbrush at the Lord of Time, like at one of the greatest titans and beings to have ever lived in all of Greek mythology, and just hitting him in the eye with a plastic hairbrush and that buying them time to escape. That's so fucking cool. You want him to be evil, is that it? Annabeth yelled. You didn't know him before, Percy. I did. What is it with you? I snapped. Why do you keep defending him? It just hurts me because I understand where both of them are coming from. I also think both of them are in the wrong. Percy, can you please try and be a little bit more empathetic? You know what Luke means to Annabeth. You know how traumatizing seeing that would have been. You also did see Luke slip through for a moment. She's emotional. Even if you don't believe it, just tell her maybe there's a chance. And then when you're not in this situation, bring the conversation up again. Annabeth, I can't criticize her for her loyalty to Luke because it is ultimately what saves the world in the end. Her loyalty and belief that Luke is still in there and Luke is a good person is what saves them. However, Luke is not deserving of her beliefs in him. Luke has not actually given her any reason to still believe that he is a good person deep down. He just hasn't. And so I understand why Percy is frustrated with her too. But I also understand why Annabeth is getting so angry at Percy because Percy didn't know him before. And Percy doesn't understand really what Luke means to her. And it's easy for Percy to just accept Luke as the villain, but Annabeth has so much history with him that Percy just doesn't take into account. Pan dying or fading always makes me so emotional, but Blackjack is here now, so I'm good. See you later, Percy Jackson. Go save the world for me, okay? I love her. I ran after her and found Annabeth at my side, keeping pace, her sword in her hand. This might be it, she said. Could be. Nice fighting with you, Seaweed Brain. Ditto. Literally every time Grover, calls out, I forget what it's called, they'll say it in a second, but every time he does that noise thing, all I can think of is Christine, Paula Madonna's book talk about Battle of the Labyrinth, where she talks about how in her head that is just the puppet from Sesame Street doing it, and that just lives in my mind rent free. I knew you would come. I did not know, the 100-handed one said, but you remind me who I am, Cyclops. You are the hero. Damn fucking right, Tyson is the hero. You were right, Annabeth, about children of Athena. We should be wise, and I was not. Someday you will be a greater architect than I ever was. I'm gonna cry. I'm actually gonna cry. I forgot that Lee Fletcher died here. For some reason, I thought Lee Fletcher died in The Last Olympian. That just gave me so many goosebumps because I wasn't expecting that. Okay. See, this is a problem I have with Rick's later series, is so many people die in the first series. So many characters get killed, which means that when not as many get killed in later series, and I'm particularly talking about Heroes of Olympus, when not as many characters get killed in later series, it makes it feel like a smaller battle. It doesn't feel as if the stakes are high enough, and there's a problem with sequels of how you always have to up the body count and how that can get really ridiculous, and like this is a really bad trope in horror movies and stuff, but realistically you kind of need to at least have the stakes be the same as the first series if you're writing a sequel series. And in Heroes of Olympus specifically, they're just not. There's like one character death that affected me in Heroes of Olympus. One. In a longer series than this that is meant to be a bigger threat than this. Zeus knows how many more. Thunder rumbled in the distance. Strike that. Even Zeus doesn't know. I love that. Also, look who's come to sit with me. Nico just like apologizing for being a brat and stuff to Percy is like good, because Percy, it's good for Percy because Percy does blame himself for Bianca, and he does need to know that it really wasn't his fault. And Nico saying that he should have listened to him probably means a lot to Percy, but at the same time, Nico is, they said 10, maybe 11. He is that young. Bianca is all he ever had. He had every right to be a brat. He was grieving, and he's a fucking child, and he had every right to be a brat, to be honest. Walk with me, he said. Why to? I asked suspiciously. Just to the campfire, he said. I was beginning to feel better, so I thought I would talk with you a bit. You always manage to annoy me. Thanks? I love Mr. D. I genuinely love Mr. D so much. Annabeth and I pretty much skirted around each other. I was glad to be with her, but it also kind of hurt, and it hurt when I wasn't with her too. Unpopular opinion, that is the most painful Perciveth quote out of any series. That hurts me so bad. And lose love to worse than death. Annabeth, the tears in her eyes. That was the last line. Percy, are you happy now? Her sun seemed colder than it had a moment ago. Oh, I said. So Luke, Percy, I didn't know who the prophecy was talking about. I didn't know if Luke and I, for years, he was the only one who really cared about me. I thought, I genuinely don't have words, because, I mean, she was stumbling over her words, but she put it well. She kept the line to herself because she didn't know if it meant Percy or Luke. She also didn't know in what way the word love was referring to, because evidently she figures out in The Last Olympian, she makes her choice, and she decides that she loved Luke as her family, and she is in love with Percy, and those are different things, but she wasn't sure of any of it, and so she was scared, and she can't talk to him about it. And alright, so Hera tells, Annabeth that she'll regret insulting her and whatever, but like, do you reckon if Annabeth didn't insult Hera there, that like maybe Percy wouldn't have been just like kidnapped against his will? Or he would have had his memories, or they would have had a little hint. Because that's the worst thing she does to them, really. Listen, Annabeth, I thought about Mount St. Helens, Calypso's Island, Luke, and Rachel Elizabeth Dare, and how suddenly everything had gotten so complicated. I wanted to tell Annabeth that I didn't really want to be so distant from her. I am going to throw myself off a cliff. I'm gonna do it. You've had a rough summer, he said. I'm guessing you lost someone important. And girl trouble? I stared at him. How did you know that? I love that Paul can just sense it. Paul asking for Percy's blessing before he proposes to Sally. That's so personal to me. Aside in saying Percy's his favourite son. This video is just me having a breakdown. It is so funny to me that Poseidon's like, yeah, and about Mount St. Helens, and Percy immediately is like, he knows that Annabeth kissed me. Like, bro, you like exploded a volcano. But his mind was like, what's the most prominent thing that happened there? Annabeth kissing me. And Nico being there right at the end, and Percy planting the garden in Manhattan for Calypso. I love this book. I really love this book I just love it. Okay, so that was Battle of the Labyrinth. Fingers fucking crossed that I don't lose all the footage to this reading vlog, and that this one turns out alright and is uploaded and you're watching this all fine and good. We can hope. This is my favourite book by far, so thank you for coming along in this journey with me, and you know, hopefully having a breakdown with me so you weren't just watching me go insane the whole time. I think it would be nice if that was a mutual thing. Thank you very, very much for watching. As always, I love all of you so much. Talk to me in the comments about the book if you want to. I love talking to you guys in the comments. It's just genuinely a highlight of uploading videos for me, is getting to actually hear from you. So if you have anything to say or you want to chat, go ahead. All my socials will be linked below. I'll have a link tree, I'll have my Patreon, I'll have all my social media usernames. It'll all be in there if you care about any of that. But besides that, thank you very, very much for watching. I love you very much, and I'll see you soon. Mwah.